Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 16th, 2018 meeting of the Dover Area School Board. If you'd please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mrs. Benko, could we have the roll call, please?
Mrs. Britton? Here. Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Deschaux?
Here.
Mr. DeLauder?
Here.
Mr. Eifert?
Here.
Mr. Emig?
Here.
Mrs. Herman?
Here.
Mrs. Maley?
Here.
Mr. Rawhauser?
Here.
All members are present.
Okay, thank you. First, we have our report from our student board representatives. Gigi.
In the fall report, fall activities are scheduled in each of the elementary buildings. Students will get the opportunity to participate in crafts, run through Browns houses, and many other PTO-sponsored activities. This month, students had the opportunity to participate in a variety of STEM challenges. Students were asked to create their own version of a school bus or to design a catapult that could launch miniature pumpkins. Title I night was held on Wednesday, October 10th at North Salem Elementary. We had an amazing turnout and everyone enjoyed the Read S'more activities. October has been Bully Prevention Month. Various activities focused on identifying bullying behaviors, strategies for students to respond to conflict, and ways to create and maintain a bully-free community. In the secondary report, the Resurgence team held its first Adopt a Classroom visit to Libe Elementary this month. High school students have been partnered with classrooms at Libe and will visit once a month to support students in grades 1 through 5. DHS held its homecoming activities this week. Thank you to everyone who supported the week, including those groups that participated in our parade. We had every building represented in the homecoming parade. IS students volunteered with Miss Landis to run the games at the Dover Township Fall Festival. IS students completed applications to serve on leadership committees. Dover CTE and York County School of Technology presented program information to the 8th grade students. IS students will participate in the first Spirit Assembly on Friday, October 19th. In Fine Arts, the Dover Band Show will be held on Saturday, October 27th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. The event will feature bands from York County and will be held in the DHS Stadium. The District Choral Festival is scheduled on Saturday, October 20th at 2:30 p.m. The event features 350 Dover students from grades 6 through 12. In athletics, fall sports teams are finishing up their regular seasons and transitioning to post-season play. Currently, girls volleyball and varsity football are in contention to qualify for District 3 playoffs. Earlier today, all-female cross-country runners qualified for the district meet. This Friday, Dover will host Gettysburg in Division II play. The game has been selected at Fox 43's Game of the Week. They will be on campus prior to and during the game to feature Dover students and programs.
Thank you. Any questions from our board members? I had one that maybe Dr. Wiesling could answer. I just wondered if you had an update on the Libe playground and how that's going.
Yes, well.
Could you?
Grab the mic and start walking around. Do I need to state my name and address? All of the equipment has been installed. The safety surface tan bark mulch has been sprayed on. We are waiting for some parts yet on the rock climbing wall and the shade structure. So the swings are being able to be used, and they're great. They're beautiful, but we're just still holding off yet. Oh, the two basketball poles and backboards and rims and nets were installed, and our two new toss-back items on the playground surface macadam have also been installed. So we're using everything but the rock wall and the shade structure. And so Mr. Nelson and I just spoke this week, and he's in communication with the installers to try to figure out the timeline of getting those final pieces of hardware in to finalize those. So thank you very much. Yeah, we're really excited about being able to do that. And we're actually Libe PTO sponsoring our Laps for Libe, which is our major fundraiser tomorrow, as a matter of fact, to begin the fundraising for the next phase of trying to do some improvement stages here and there along the way. All right, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Gigi. You're welcome to stay and have fun here or have fun doing homework at home, whichever you prefer.
Thank you. We have two presentations tonight. First is our Schoology and Notability presentation from the intermediate school and high school.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to show behind you, because that's Apple
Yeah,
TV's
it's on the
only
screen
hook up.
behind you.
Okay.
Do I need to talk into this? You can hear me? Okay. I am Miss Fortney. I teach math at the intermediate school, 8th grade, and I just wanted to show you how I've been using Schoology in my classes. My main goal with using it is to really create ownerships in the students so they can just take ownership of their learning and be able to move at a pace that works for them. So it's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can zoom in. I don't know if I can. This, if you can see, is set up by unit for the students. So here is the first unit that we did in the Keystone Algebra class on equations. Then we've done a unit on inequalities. And right now we're working on exponents and scientific notation. So if you click on the unit, you can see it's broken down by skills. And what I've done for the students is they're able to work through this at their own pace, just going in order of the skills. The first folder, if you just take a peek in there, this is a video, which you don't need to watch, but it's basically the same lesson that I would do for the students at the front of the room. It's just I use an app called Doceri to make the video, and it's posted on here, so students can watch it as many times as they want. They can pause it when they need to. They're able to kind of go through it at their own pace. And then they have classwork, which is, it just depends. Some of it's on paper, some of it's using other apps that they also can do at their own pace. And answer keys are posted here, so when they're ready, they're able to check their own work. And then as we go, there are checks that I do, exit tickets, that sort of thing, whether they're on Schoology or paper, pencil format, to just check their progress as they're working. But it's some of the kids do really well with it. Some need a little more just learning how to be independent and how to work on their own, but it frees me up to pull small groups and work with kids individually who need extra support. And then it also allows the kids to work together a little bit more, because if they're on the same topic, they're able to work in groups that make sense to them and help each other out. So it's pretty straightforward. The units are all set up again so that they can go at their own pace with check-ins along the way.
Schoology is a student management system we purchase for every student grades 3 to 12, Dom, correct? Grades 3 to 12. So every teacher is using this in every class in all different degrees. We have some who have completely converted their class to this, and we have some who are still learning to do that, especially at the 3rd and 4th grade. And what this allows the teacher to do is to put their entire course, as she's done, into Schoology. She can put her videos, she can put worksheets, she can put assessments. Kids can work at home. If they're sick, they can work at their own pace. It allows her to flip the classroom. If she wants them to go home and look at a video, they can do that, then come in and do the work. So every single teacher is expected to use Schoology. Again, this is new this year, so we have teachers who are just dove in, and this is our resident expert at the intermediate school. And then we have those who are just, not there yet, but that's okay, we'll get them there. So we're very excited for Schoology. It's something we are committed to, and we'll continue moving and putting our content in there. Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. In the short time that you've been using it this year, what have your results been? Have you seen some positive results from this?
Yeah, I used it last year as well. With the higher level classes that are more independent, the students love it. They get sick of hearing me talk all the time. They're like, let me just do this, let me go. They want to work. They're excited to move through it. With the classes that aren't quite there yet, it's been an adjustment, teaching them how to use it and how to be a learner instead of just rushing to finish everything. But it's cool. I can't really show you student results because their names are there, but this one they haven't done yet. But if you look on the screen here, this is an assessment that I gave the students, and they don't have to do it, like actually do the work on their iPad. They can do it paper pencil, but then they submit their answers on here, and it gives them instant feedback on how they're doing. So it's great for them because they know, oh, I missed number 3. Right away they know that, and they can go back and fix it. They don't have to wait, a whole day for me to grade their work during my prep period and then get it back to them the next day.
Now, do you do this, or is this like a totally immersion class in this style, or do you do the old lecture and?
It's kind of a combination of both. Every day we do a bell ringer, which is reviewing previous content that the kids have learned. So I might take a skill that maybe they learned this way. It's our bell ringer, and I review it with them. Sometimes if they're working this way and I realize, okay, they're not getting this, then I'll just pull them together as a class or in a small group and break it down to them. Just me teaching it kind of old school lecture style, if that makes sense.
Another question that I had is, what's your experience been with kids that struggle with focus? Does this format increase their ability to focus, whereas maybe sitting and paying attention to you talking in a classroom wouldn't? Or do those kids still struggle to stay focused in this format the same as what they would? And how do you address that if kids aren't really staying tuned in?
It's kind of a case-by-case basis, and the kids are required to bring headphones to class so that if there's 20 kids listening to different videos at the same time, you hear my voice popping up all over the room, which doesn't go well. So some of them are super focused. The kids that they just want to move at their own pace, they don't want to deal with quote-unquote nonsense, other things that are going on. Some kids, they lose focus, so we've had to have more like not lessons on math, but lessons on how can we use this as a resource so that it is beneficial for you. And the kids that maybe are losing focus are ones that I would work with on an individual basis to make sure that they're really mastering what they need to.
Do you find that this gives you the resources and the time, maybe more so, to be able to do that then?
Yeah, it frees up a lot of my time, because in the past, if I was doing a 10 or 15 minute lesson in front of the whole class, that's 10 or 15 minutes of time I couldn't be working with kids. And since they're all working at different paces, some of them, maybe a kid that wouldn't be so eager to raise their hand and ask a question in front of the whole class, they can come up to me when I'm working in a small group, or if they see I'm not helping anyone, they're so much more comfortable asking me a question because they don't have to do it with 20 some other kids staring at them and wondering why they're asking that question.
I'm not sure who to ask this to, but so for the elementary, and they cannot take their iPads home, so what, do they have passwords that they can go home and get on their computers at home and go in and do practice sessions with this?
Yep.
Well, and I will just comment, my daughter's actually in this exact class, and she is very independent and loves this. For her, it really, really works because she can push ahead, she can do what she wants, she can check her work, she can check in with you if she has a question or if something just didn't happen, the way she thought it should. So it's been great for her, but I'm happy to hear that there are other kind of checks and balances in place for kids who may struggle a little bit more and not be able to move at their own pace and have that level of independence at that age, because that's still an age where many just aren't there yet.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Our part of the presentation is to talk about Notability. And again, the one nice thing about Schoology, for example, tomorrow I'm out writing curriculum, so I can load a lesson for my kids to download on Schoology to take a look at, whether it's a video, whether it's notes, whether it's to learn how to read on their own. They take quizzes online, and you may be saying, why would you take quizzes online? Well, when they go to college, they take some quizzes online, so it's a good experience with that too. I brought Drew with me because Notability, the kids are amazing with technology, as we all know, and I learn something from them every day about Notability. I've bought into Notability very much just because you can download a lesson onto it and do anything you want with it. And Drew is one of my standouts. Drew McDonald is one of my standouts in AP Calc with using it. So he's going to demonstrate a few things to you and show you some of the stuff you can do with Notability.
First thing I'd just like to talk about is how easy it is to organize everything. At the very start of the year, as soon as I got my schedule, I was able to make these folders on the left-hand side for each class for the first semester and the second semester, and it satisfied my OCD with the convenient rainbow organizing there. And then once you actually get into the content, you're able to take notes on everything. This is actually an assignment that I was able to download off of Schoology, and I'm actually going to hop on over to Schoology to show you an example of how to do that. Chapter 4 of Calculus. All you have to do is click on that, export it, and then there's a Notability option right there. You just hit it, and it already sends it. Send it. As soon as you go to Notability, it opens up because it recognized something was sent to it. Go ahead and create a new note.
See, this is why I brought Drew.
Yeah, there we go. All right, and then it automatically organizes itself right there because all of your newest documents show up right at the top. Easy access for the stuff that's most relevant to you. Now going into actually working on problems and such, you're able to write directly onto the screen, writing whatever you want at whatever size. You can go down. I love calc. There we go. There we go. See? Just like that. And then, let's say you're working on something, but you really wanted to be able to see everything else on the page. Or if you could just get rid of your keyboard for me there, whatever. It don't need it. Come on. It's all right. Let it go. There, I'm gonna just pop that back on. That works better. Okay. So long as it's on there, you're able to also hit the zoom tab, and then you can just drag this around so that way you're able to see everything else that's on the other page, but still get really fine lines by changing the size of the pen, and you can underline certain things, just circle specific things without making a garbled mess of your notes. Speaking of notes, I've also, like, this is taken straight from Schoology. Mr. Stover posts all of his presentations for notes onto Schoology, and I just download them straight onto here, so I'm able to follow along on my own iPad, add things here and there about example problems, so that way I can save paper, but also if I always have the option of writing on paper as well. Aside from that, we also have, popping on over to chemistry, Lab 15, we were working on structuring organic molecules, and I was able to just take pictures using up here. You can take a photo, just take it, use it, goes right in. You can drag it around, choose where it wants to go. Easy as that. Okay, and then it's gone. One thing that I find to be like most useful is just taking cut. You can drag an entire section of notes all at once. You can copy it, paste it again. I use that whenever I feel too lazy to rewrite the same equation over and over. Other than that, I use it all the time. It's definitely a step up from the iPad technology we had last year with both the iPad itself and what we can actually do with them. I notice classmates all around me using it just as much as I do, if not more at times. It's just a really good tool for everyone to have. That's my opinion, and I'm sure many agree.
And now Notability we purchased just at the high school, so they're using that this year.
Does anybody use 3-ring binders anymore?
I still have a binder for each class.
I do. And I still have students who take notes by paper.
Which I do. I have a paper notebook just in case I ever don't have access for this. Everything I write on here, I also copy onto my paper.
Any other questions?
I think Mrs. Herman said she'd like this for the board members going forward, right? You ready? All right.
As long as I'm here to sign her on, I think we're good. Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Next, we have social and emotional learning services with Mrs. Johnson.
Good evening. So we have lots and lots of information here to present to you. So my goal for everyone this evening is to do as broad of a stroke as we can about what we have learned about our student body over the last year, what data we've collected, what that has told us about the needs of our students, but also then to assure that we're giving you a clear picture of all of the strategies that we're using to try and meet the needs of those students. So if there are any questions along the way, please feel free to interrupt and make sure that I'm clarifying and meeting your needs, okay? So the goal, we're gonna do a really brief discussion about the ACEs study. And probably everyone who has heard me speak is maybe sick of hearing me talk about the ACEs study, but I think that it really helps put some framework around why we're talking about these things for our students. I'll go over some of the data that we've collected, and then we're going to talk about the protective factors framework and what strategies we're using this year to kind of build some resiliency in our students. So for anyone who has not heard me talk about the Adverse Childhood Experience Study, what this is this is a study that was done in '97 by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. And they did a survey of a significantly large population. 70% of the population was Caucasian, 70% of the population was college educated. And what they did was they asked this group of folks to basically give themselves a point for each one of these particular experiences that they may have had during childhood. And they qualified these experiences as what you see listed here. Any type of abuse or neglect in childhood, any parent separation or divorce, living in a household with a parent that is using any substances, a household with a parent who has a mental illness, domestic violence, or incarcerated parents, single parent household. For every one of these experiences, the person earned a point. And what they learned was that there was a significant prevalence to adverse childhood experiences. 67% of the population has an ACE score of at least 1. What they also learned about adverse childhood experiences is that there is a dose-response relationship, meaning the more adversity you face in childhood, the higher risk and the more health outcomes you may experience. And their results were frankly pretty staggering. So you can see some of the outcomes here. For anyone who had an ACE score of 4 or more, which you can see is about 12% of the population, they are 2.5 times more likely to have COPD. They are 2.5 times at the risk for hepatitis. They are 4.5 times the risk for depression, 12 times the risk for suicide. 7 or more, 3.5 times the risk for heart disease. So we're talking physical health outcomes as well as mental health outcomes for people who are facing these adverse experiences in childhood. For more immediate outcomes, what we also know is that when children are facing toxic stress or adversity, there are actually physical changes that occur in their developing brains. There have been some brain scans done that actually show the amygdala portion of the brain, which is really your emotion center, is larger in children who have been living in toxic stress, and the frontal lobe is actually smaller than other children. So what that tells us is that it can immediately impact kids' emotional regulation, as well as their ability to learn, to plan, to organize, to anticipate consequences. And why is that important for our schools? Because we're here to teach children. We need their thinking brains to be functional and their emotional brains to be sound so that we can actually work with them in classrooms. So we wanted to know how many of these experiences were impacting our children. And so we gathered data from a lot of different sources. We did the Pennsylvania Youth Survey, which I think all of you have received the full report at this time. We've received information from York County Children and Youth Services, as well as information just from the district and from myself. And these are some of the things that we learned about our kids and what they're facing. So last year, I was referred 94 individual students and families over the course of the year. This year, as of today, that number actually changed. As of today, I have received 42 students referred to me already this year. So we are on pace for me to serve significantly more students this year than were referred last. The primary reasons that students are being referred to social work is for mental health issues. You can also see family dynamics, social and emotional deficiencies, deprivation, and homelessness. This is our free and reduced lunch data. We have 45% of our students that are currently eligible for free and reduced lunch, and we also believe that that is underreported in some of our buildings. That scale for you just sort of shows you the income, so you can kind of see what we're talking about for family income for free and reduced lunch. What we learned through the Pennsylvania Youth Survey was a tremendous amount of information. I'm sure that you all have looked through that report, and there's a lot of details there, but what I pulled out for you here are some of the areas where we are higher than the state average. So we are higher than the state average in substance use, specifically our 8th grade vaping. We doubled the state average in prescription narcotic use and over-the-counter medication use. We are higher than state average in the transitions that our students experience, which it consists of abandonment, multiple moves, and kids that are worried about finances or food security in their homes. We also had significantly high mental health numbers, where we had 46% of our kids reporting feeling sad or depressed in the last 12 months, and more students seriously considering suicide than the rest of the state average. In child welfare, referrals tend to be constituted into two categories, CPS and GPS referrals. CPS referrals are child abuse referrals, specifically physical or sexual abuse. GPS is everything else. GPS is kind of child neglect, maybe dirty houses or truancy or parents that are using substances. In York County as a whole, 65% of the reports that they get are general, and 35% are child abuse, CPS. Here in Dover, we are the exact opposite. So 65% of the referrals coming in from families in our district are child abuse referrals, and 35% are general neglect.
When you say, that number's staggering to me.
Absolutely.
So when you say child abuse, what are you talking? Are you talking the physical?
We are talking about we are talking about three particular categories: physical abuse, sexual abuse, and then something that's called imminent risk. And imminent risk is actually a definition that sort of refers to a parent making a decision that they're knowingly putting their child in danger. So for example, if a parent has a spouse or a paramour that might be a sex offender, and they allow that person to care for and babysit their child, that would be an example of imminent risk. You can switch. This is more recent child welfare data. So what you saw on the prior screen was last year. This is from January up until just August of this year, and this just shows you the most common reasons that our families are being reported to Children and Youth Services. You can see the highest bars are imminent risk, physical abuse, and substance abuse of a parent. These are the numbers of reports that have come in for our students. The blue line is from 2017 and the orange line is for 2018. So you can see that our referrals for this year are significantly higher than the referrals at this time last year. So there are more families being reported to child welfare. This is just a breakdown of our Pennsylvania Youth Survey data. When we say our children are experiencing more mental health issues, this gives you a little sense of the kinds of questions that they answered and how they answered those. So the lighter line is Dover, and the darker line is the state average. And you can see we answered, sometimes I think that life is not worth it. At times I think that I am no good at all. And all in all, I'm inclined to think that I'm a failure. So these were how the depressive symptoms were categorized. This next slide will show you our numbers for considering, planning, attempting suicide, as well as engaging in self-harming behaviors such as cutting. Again, the light bar is Dover, and the darker bar is the state average. You can kind of move past this because I don't want to take up too much time. It's okay. So, resilience is this term that I think is, for some, is kind of difficult to define. And when we're talking about building resilience in kids, we have to sort of think of it like this sort of scale with a fulcrum in the middle. And we have to really try to balance out the positive experiences that our kids have and balance them against any negative life experiences that might face them. And so the good news is that there are studies all over that tell us that connections to adults at school are more predictive of emotional well-being than connections at home, socioeconomic status, or connections in the community. So we have a lot of power here as an educational system about what we can do in building resilience. And there's sort of a framework that we can follow. The Center for the Study on Social Policy did some research and created this sort of protective factors framework that tells us there are 5 particular categories that communities can focus on to ensure that we have optimal child development. So I'll kind of go over that protective factors framework with you and talk to you about what we as a district are doing in each of those protective factors to try to build resilience and counterbalance some of these experiences our kids are having. So the protective factors framework is more than just reducing risk. It's actually about building strengths in communities and in families. And the 5 protective factors that we should be focusing on as a community are listed here: parenting knowledge, social connections, parental resilience, social and emotional competence of children, and concrete supports. So just to do an overview for you of all of the efforts that we're making. We'll start with sort of concrete supports, sort of Maslow's hierarchy, right? Like we need to have our basic needs first. So we have started the weekend food program here at the district. This is an opportunity, it's a partnership with New Hope Ministries where we provide food. We send it home in backpacks with children. Any child in the district is eligible. We send home basically enough meals and snacks to get them through the weekend because there are some students that rely on food here at school and over the weekends would not have access to that. And so last year, our alternative education students packed the food and delivered that to our buildings. This year, we have a partnership with 4 local churches that are packing food for us, delivering that to the building, and we're sending that home with our students. We also have done some fundraising, and we continue to do fundraising to raise emergency funds for families that are in need for any kind of housing costs, for clothing costs, to assist with basic needs. We have families that at times are evicted from homes and there's no shelter openings, and so we may assist them with paying for a hotel for an evening so that until they can get into a shelter. We have a partnership this year with Community Aid, and Community Aid bins have been placed on all of our properties, and in turn they have given us gift cards so that families can go and get clothing if they need clothing. So we receive about $300 per building per quarter of gift cards that we're able to give families so that they can access clothing. We also can work with local Lions clubs because they provide vouchers so that people can get eyeglasses. And so these are some of the strategies that we're using to assure that the concrete support is available for our families. As far as the social and emotional competence of children, I would say this is where we've spent probably most of our efforts and most of our time. This year, we have piloted 2 screeners, the DESA screener at the elementary level and the behavioral health screener at the secondary level. The DESA screener is a screener that helps us assess for social and emotional competencies and helps us learn where we can be doing some more instruction in the classroom, where we can be adding some small group instruction, and how we can kind of build some skills in our kiddos. These are things like self-management and relationship skills and self-awareness. The behavioral health screener is obviously looking for any behavioral health concerns for our secondary students. And we just completed our first round of behavioral health screening at the intermediate school today. And we screened, I believe, 56 students. And of those students, we were able to connect 9 of them with the Student Assistance Program or counseling services. And so we were really excited about that. I will tell you, one of the experiences that we had today was a student that on paper no one would have noticed there was anything we should pay attention to with this student. Straight A's, plays sports, presents as a real happy kid. Nobody was concerned. And in the screener, he identified some things that allowed us to get him connected to some counseling services. So we were really excited to be able to make sure that we're identifying kiddos that otherwise maybe would have gone under the radar. Trauma-Informed Schools is a grant that we have participated in with York County, and it's teaching our secondary buildings how to manage their classrooms in a way that is trauma sensitive, how to help kids who have had some of these experiences kind of reduce the emotional stuff that's happening and be able to pay attention and focus in schools. And so it's helping our teachers learn how to do some relationship building, how to manage their classrooms in ways that helps kids feel safe and that addresses all of their emotional needs. Responsive classroom is what we're doing at the elementary level. And Responsive Classroom is also teaching kids some emotional regulation, it's teaching them some social skills, it's giving teachers an opportunity to check in with classrooms and learn what social relationships look like and assess if there's any bullying that they need to tune into. And so we have some universal strategies that we're doing at both buildings, helping teachers learn some strategies to work with these kiddos. Student assistance continues to be a priority here. At the intermediate school, we've already had 23 students referred for student assistance this year. At the high school, we have 37 students that have been referred for student assistance this year. And school-based therapy is a new one. We actually have outpatient therapy services available in every one of our buildings for any student that's in need of service. We also can offer that to families. And so if there are any parents in our community that are in need of mental health services, they too can access outpatient therapy through this provider here in our buildings. Parental resilience, I think school-based therapy is one of our strategies there. Social connections, this is where we're looking to assure that our kids are connected to one another and connected to our schools. And so Check and Connect is a strategy that we're using. This is a mentoring program that is used across the county to ensure that kids have connections to teachers and are not disengaging from school. It's a dropout prevention program. We are doing some research on after-school opportunities and community opportunities for our kids. There are some programs in Red Lion and Dallastown area called 18 South. There's another one in Elizabethtown called Cornerstone. These are like community centers for kids that gives them kind of a drop-in place to go. They feed kids, they have activities for kids. There's somewhere, it's something for children to do that is not just sort of walking the streets of their town. And so we're doing some research on these programs and would like to put these out to our community to see if anyone is interested in potentially helping us start something like that here in the Dover area. And for parenting knowledge, we are beginning this year to host parent information sessions and parent information nights so that we can be getting information out to our parents about what they can do to kind of partner with us and how we can help them help their children. So a lot of information, but want to be sure you see what we're working on. You can change slides, Tim. And this is, these are just other activities that we're doing to address school climate or any special populations. So we are working on diversity and inclusion practices. So the county does have a diversity task force that we are participating in, but we've also created a unity council that is looking at our inclusion practices here in the district. Our Avidum clubs in both secondary buildings are extremely active this year. They're looking to do a lot of work in both buildings, working on inclusion and helping kids feel like they have some peer support. Be the Change is a bullying prevention parent group that is partnering with us and looking to assist in any way that they can. The 10,000 Acts of Kindness is something that York County is doing as the 50th year since the riot activity. They're looking to break the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest dinner table ever. And in order to earn a seat at the table, you have to do an act of kindness. And so they're looking to host 10,000 seats and have this celebration of unity in York County. And so Dover is a sponsoring district for that activity. And we also then participate in just these following activities across the county: the Truancy Task Force, the Every Student Succeeds Task Force, and the Youth Mental Health Alliance. So we're trying to be sure that we are active across the county and have representation on all of those districts as well. So lots of information, questions, concerns, reactions.
This information that you shared with us tonight, Kirsten, is
Yes.
very alarming. It's also very sobering for us. I want you to know that I really appreciate all the work you're doing in the district. I mean, you're a tremendous asset to us. There's a lot on your plate there. I don't know how you do it all and how you accomplish it all, so thank you for that. I do know, too, that we're in the midst of our budgeting process. We've done surveys, things like that, and I would ask that our administrative team keep all of this information in mind as they work on the budget for next year and make sure that we're devoting the appropriate resources to try and address some of this. We need to make sure we're getting ahead of it as much as we can. So thank you for all you've done.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. And certainly our classroom teachers have a lot on their plate, and our special education groups. I mean, it certainly affects every layer. So thank you for your awareness and your support.
Anybody else?
And I'd like to add too, you'll see like the conferences, why are we doing conferences differently this year? Because we want to create a community. We want to create a community. We think we have an opportunity while we have parents coming in to do some education. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit with our staff, the book study, Jimmy Cassis, that's why we brought Jimmy Cassis in, relationships is what he talks about, and doing a book study with the teachers, because this is multifaceted. It's not just academic, it's everything. But again, the teachers are busy. They're really busy, and I give them a ton of credit for stepping up, because the data is alarming and we need to do something right away.
I have a question related to the number of referrals that you mentioned earlier on, that they're considerably higher. Would you estimate that there's a trend there because situations are presenting themselves a lot more frequently, or do you think there might be some increased awareness that is then generating more referrals because maybe in the past, I guess maybe my question is things getting worse that it's causing more referrals, or are we becoming more aware of it that now you think that might be part of the statistical increase?
Right, so as far as referrals to me specifically, referrals to children and youth, I would say that that's an issue of awareness. I think that we've done a really good job of helping people know what to look for, how to interpret need, and how to connect kids and families to the resources that they need. So I can't say that over the last year that I think things have gotten significantly worse. I also unfortunately don't have much of a historical perspective because I've only been in the district for a year. Now, as far as the numbers sort of on the Pennsylvania Youth Survey, I certainly can't attest to all of the variables that are impacting that. But what we're doing here in the district, I believe, is raising awareness and assuring that we're getting kids and families connected to the right services that they need.
You had mentioned two of the things there as food for the weekends.
Yes.
and clothing. Do you feel that we are getting the message out to families that would be in that particular situation so that they're aware of it, or do you think there's more that we should do?
I always think that we can do a better job in communicating with parents. I think that we try a lot of different strategies. We rely a lot on our school counselors to help us identify which kids in their buildings are in need. We send information out electronically to parents, but not all of our parents access information in that way. So I think that we're always open to ideas of how to make sure that the parents that need the information are accessing it.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is our first public comment period. This is a 3-minute period for items on or off of tonight's agenda. If you have anything you would like to comment on, please come to the microphones and state your name and address for the record. Okay, Board President's communication. We did have an executive session that began at 6 o'clock tonight to discuss items that are on tonight's agenda, as well as some personnel matters. Policy Committee report. The summary of our Policy Committee meeting.
So the Policy Committee, we focused on 3 policies this month. Dating violence is a new policy that's required. We discussed it, however, we were going to bring it tonight. We pulled it because there was just some questions in talking to Ben Pratt. So we are going to bring that back and talk to Kirsten about that to just make sure we're aligned the way we want to be. Suicide awareness has been updated and worked on. It is very close to PSBA's policy recommendation. However, we just wanted to make sure it aligned with our procedures, so that is on your board agenda for adoption tonight. And finally, use of district facilities and fees. That will be discussed on Thursday. I know there was some information that was gathered to talk about that. So that will be discussed on Thursday at committee, and hopefully will come in front of you very shortly.
Any questions for Mrs. Kroom? Okay. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the September 18th, 2018 board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Benko. The motion carries. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the September 20th, 2018 Board Planning Meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Benko? And the motion carries. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve all items listed under the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or discussions on any of these items? Okay, hearing none, Mrs. Benko. And the motion carries. Okay. Dover Eagle Foundation, Mrs. Kroom.
Okay. So Mrs. Menko and I and Mrs. Murphy have been given a list of people recommended who may be interested in serving on a board of the Dover Eagle Foundation. So right now we are in the process of setting up appointments with those that have not already committed to serve on this board. So we are going to go out and talk to them and see if they're interested really in creating this board and defining the mission of the Dover Eagle Foundation. And hopefully we will have a board, and the first tentative board meeting will be January 8th, 2019. At this point, 4 staff members have applied for grants, so we're just kind of holding on them for now till we have a board to decide on the grants, but we are really excited about that. I'd also like to report, and I don't have an exact number, but I think we're close to 40 staff members who are donating through payroll deduction to the Eagle Foundation. So and that's weekly, so that's really very exciting.
Any questions? Okay, York Adams Academy, Mr. Emig.
Our next meeting will take place on Tuesday, October 30th, and as of last week's report, we have 6 open seats available at that facility.
Thank you, Mr. Emig. Any questions? Okay, York County School of Technology, Mr. DeLauder.
I really have nothing to report this month.
LIU Special Education, Mr. DeShow.
We will be holding our executive director interviews on October 23rd and 24th. And that's
Any
everything.
questions for Mr. DeShow? Okay, Legislative, Mr. Rawhauser.
Your opportunity's coming up beginning of November to vote. It's a right you should exercise. If you watch the television advertisements right now, neither candidate that's running for office is qualified, which everything's running normal. And that's all I have on that.
All right, thank you. With Mr. Rawhauser still, the York Learning Center.
Okay, we met last month. We had a tour of the old Central High School. The cameras were installed inside. They were still going to install cameras outside. It was reported that Votech installed 11,000 feet of cable in the building. And they said it was an experience that they couldn't get in the classroom by crawling through the ceilings. And we had a good financial report, and 41 of the 44 classrooms right now are being used. We have outside students coming in, which is helping us financially. And what really surprised me was that 89-year-old school looks so good.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Rawhauser?
Who is it that goes to school there? I mean, fill me in, I'm not sure, understand. Who are the students that are going there to facility?
So York Adams Academy is an option for our students at the high school level that,
So
to
this-
graduate.
So this is York Adams Academy?
Yes.
This is the same?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
all right,
yes.
Okay, I
Yep.
understand
No.
that, I'm sorry.
Oh, we,
Learning Center?
oh, Lions Pride.
Lions
Oh.
Pride, Yorkshire Academy, preschool. Yeah,
Okay.
Encompasses a lot of classes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. PSBA, Mrs. Brenton.
The legislative session is quickly coming to an end this week, so lots of legislation flying around left and right. The big one was Senate Bill 1095 that was signed in the House yesterday, I believe, and it now goes to Governor Wolf's desk for signature. The bill establishes a performance-based system that provides different assessment strategies. There are 4 options for students to show they're ready to graduate. They're aligned to a student's career goals and reflect expectations, coursework, grades, activities, achievements, and achievements earned. In addition to the Keystone exams, alternative tests and other factors can be counted towards graduation. There are also provisions for oversight and accountability for schools and students under the new system. The changes under the bill, if it's signed into law, will be begin with the class of 2022, which is those students currently in 9th grade. Additionally, I think the annual
The school leadership conference is this week
Conference.
where we'll vote on the
Yes.
platforms,
Right.
delegates,
Yes.
Friday. Any questions for Mrs. Brenton? Okay, Industrial Development Committee, Mrs. Herman.
Just that the second meeting of the Business Association will be November the 14th.
Thank you. Superintendent's report, Mrs. Kroom.
Right, as Gigi reported, last Wednesday was our Title I dinner, and thank you to Mrs. Heidler. It was awesome. We had over 200 people attend. It was a, what was the theme? The theme was campfire theme, s'mores, chocolate, marshmallows. It was awesome. The kids loved it, and we had such a wonderful turnout. And she did an amazing job with the decorations and the kids, but it was awesome. This Friday, the administration team is providing lunch for the Northern York Regional Police Department. We are thanking them for all of their support last year into this year, and we have tons and tons of food we are taking over to them on Friday. So we're very appreciative to everyone who's donating that. October 23rd, I am going to host the first community coffee and conversation starting at 8:45 for coffee. We'll start at 9. We're going to, the format for this will be about a half an hour presentation. So for this first one, our presentation is going to be on the comprehensive plan. Dr. Maloney's going to do, and then we have to update them on the building project. So parents are invited, community members are invited. We put it in the local free newspaper, so we're hoping for a very nice turnout. Our next 2, I think the next one's in February and then one in June. The next one will be in the afternoon and then one in the evening. So we're going to try and hit all groups of people. Next week are our revamped parent conferences. They are, it's a 3-hour early dismissal, so they will start right after dismissal on Wednesday, go to Wednesday night, then all day Thursday. And we have 2 evening programs that we're really hoping parents are interested in at the high school. On Wednesday night, we are having a program hosted by Please Live. They are the lead presenter. There will be panelists there and tons of resources for parents. And I have a whole list that will be available to parents that night. Then on Thursday, we're going to do a parent presentation on drugs. Matt Null from Gaudenzia is going to come. This presentation is designed for all parents, even parents who think their kids might not be involved in any of this. They're going to cover everything from vaping to marijuana to Adderall to all of those things, but they're also going to help parents identify clothing that have hidden messages. So we're also hoping for a really good turnout on those nights. And again, I can't thank enough Kirsten Johnson for organizing. She's a busy girl right now for organizing all these things. And then just the final thing I want to give you a heads up on, it is now October, and you'll see we haven't shared any scores and results with you yet because this year, well, first we have the yearly school performance profile, which will be is not out yet. Will be coming out, we assume, this month. A reminder that that is a score, and it's a score for each of the buildings. And the primary purpose of that, it's based on achievement scores, on growth scores, on some NOCTI scores, some things there. So that score, the primary purpose of that is for the teacher evaluation and the principal evaluation. So that should be coming out soon. So I'm giving you a heads up because this time next month, it should be out. But our new thing that's coming out is the Future Ready Index. This is not a score, it's a dashboard. And again, it will have some of these same features, but it's going to have graduation rates. There are goals set for the district till 2030. It highlights how schools are performing. So our goal is on November 3rd to give you a tutorial on, a reminder of what the SPP is, and a tutorial on the Future Ready Index and what that looks like and what it is. But we didn't want to let it go too much further in case it does come out and you hear about it, you will be given more information. Honestly, we don't have a ton of information. We don't have dates, so we didn't want to give you information that might not be right. But in November, we will be sharing all that with you.
Questions for Mrs. Kroom?
I don't have a question, but I would just like to say that when I opened my township newsletter and saw that piece in there that you put in about the coffee with, I thought that was the greatest idea ever. I've never seen any school district business in there, and this is going to reach everybody, unless they just toss it. But yeah, I just thought it was such a great idea, so thank you for doing that.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on to our miscellaneous category for any other comments or observations from our board members. Okay, hearing none, we'll move to our last public comment period. This is a 2-minute period for items on or off of the agenda. Okay. With that, our upcoming meetings, we have our board committee meetings this Thursday beginning at 6 p.m. I do believe there are some committees beginning at 5 as well. Board planning meeting is the same night at 7 p.m. and then our next regular board meeting will be November 13th at 7 p.m. So if there's no other business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes, we are adjourned. Thank you.